Learning to say no when necessary is a defining capability in both personal and professional life because it reflects clarity of purpose and strength of judgment. Many people struggle not due to lack of talent, but because they overcome it, taking on tasks, meetings, and responsibilities that dilute their effectiveness. A young manager, for example, may agree to every request from seniors only to find deadlines slipping, stress mounting, not because of incompetence, but because of an inability to set boundaries. Similarly, students often say yes to peer demands or distractions, compromising their focus during critical preparation periods. The inability to say no often stems from fear of displeasing others, missing out, or being judged. Yet, this hesitation quietly erodes productivity and confidence. In contrast, successful individuals are deliberate in their choices. They understand that every yes carries a cost and therefore evaluate where their time creates the highest value. A leader, for example, may decline additional projects to ensure excellence in priority initiatives, while an entrepreneur may turn down attractive opportunities that do not align with long term vision. Saying no becomes a strategic decision, not an emotional reaction. It signals discipline, self awareness, and respect for one's commitments. High performers recognize that focus is a finite resource and protecting it is essential for sustained success. They say no not to reject people, but to protect purpose, quality, and impact. In essence, mastering the ability to say no is about making conscious, value driven choices that make meaningful achievement and personal balance. Let's go ahead and discover more. The ability to say no is an important aspect of setting boundaries, managing your time and energy, and maintaining your well being. Inability to say no can lead to overcommitment and stress. Here is a KPMG competency definition of saying no. Learning to say no effectively is a valuable skill that can enhance your personal and professional life by allowing you to prioritize your own needs, set boundaries, and manage your time and energy more effectively. It's essential to strike a balance between helping others and taking care of yourself. Saying no is a skill that can help you set clear and consistent boundaries in your relationships and protect your time, energy, and well being. However, saying no can also be difficult for many people who may fear rejection, conflict, or disappointment. Let's now look at demonstrated behavioral skills, competencies, and the way in which people manifest their behaviors to display no or a yes. Let's now look at a few positive behaviors for saying no. Clear communication. When declining a request, be clear, direct, and polite in your response. Express your reasons calmly and honestly. Prioritization. Assess your existing commitments and priorities before agreeing to new requests. Be mindful of your limits and capacity. Assertiveness. Practice assertive communication when declining requests. Firmly and confidently express your decision without apologizing excessively or feeling guilty. Alternative solutions. Keep looking for alternatives, ways by which the problem can be solved. Offer alternative solutions or compromises when declining a request. Suggesting alternatives can demonstrate your willingness to help in other ways. There's no just one right way to say yes or no, right? Self care is critical. Prioritize self care and recognize that saying no when necessary is an act of self respect and self preservation. Time management is a critical positive behavior. Manage your time effectively by allocating it to your most important tasks and responsibilities. Saying no to less important or urgent requests can protect your time for more critical activities. Set boundaries. Establish and communicate your personal and professional boundaries clearly to others. Respect your own boundaries and encourage others to do the same. Practice the art of saying no. There are always situations which are in low stakes, at which point you can actually say no and practice it. These situations, in turn, build your confidence in asserting your boundaries. Do it, try it. Now, there is always a temptation to say yes because you want to please other people. You believe that by saying yes, you're going to win friends, you probably will gain some advantages. But the reality is, it doesn't work like that. Constantly saying yes to please others at the expense of your own needs and well being is not helpful. It's actually a negative behavior, and remember that. And another negative behavior is overcommitment. Simply agreeing to too many commitments, which can lead to burnout, stress, and reduced performance. When you overcommit and underperform, in any case, folks are not going to be happy. So you might as well decide which of those you can do and which you cannot. And don't forget, there are always situations when you tend to agree to someone's request reluctantly. You're not really happy about doing it, but you still say yes because you think you don't have a choice. You may have other situations in which you may seek his or her help, but you might as well agree today. That's going to cause a lot of resentment. When you agree to requests reluctantly and then you feel resentful afterward because you didn't want to say yes in the first place. One of the ways by which conflicts tend to get delayed, postponed, is by negative behavior. It's literally avoidance, a situation that you wish to avoid rather than deal with it. Avoiding situations where you might have to say no rather than address the issue directly only postpones the problem. It doesn't solve it. Sure, no doubt, there are conflict situations in which you need to avoid, but a demonstrated no in a behavioral context when you should be saying no should not be avoided, should not be postponed, should simply get done. Sometimes, just to be a nice person, we may feel like saying yes, when in reality it should be a no. And then you muster up your courage and manage to say no. But it doesn't stop there. You start feeling guilty. Feeling guilty or anxious about declining requests, even when it is necessary, is a behavior that you should tend to control, tend to manage, perhaps tend not to do. Now we are really back to basics in terms of negative behavior, what one may call as ineffective communication. Not clearly communicating your decision when declining requests, which can lead to misunderstandings or unmet expectation, can only lead to a lot more difficulties and problems going forward. Say no when you have to say no. Clearly say no. It's not a maybe, it's a no. This negative behavior falls within the realm of assertiveness. There are situations when boundaries are violated. Allowing others to overstep your boundaries repeatedly without asserting yourself is not going to create any joy for yourself today or going forward. Stop it when you have to stop it, and don't allow others to cross the boundaries. And finally, start thinking about yourself. Self neglect can hurt your dignity, self respect, and your esteem. Putting others' needs consistently ahead of your own, neglecting self care, and compromising your well being is not a helpful behavior and is going to help you build your personality. Let's now talk a little about why are we talking about this? Why is it that it's so critical to say no? Being honest and direct about your refusal without making excuses or lying can be helpful both in the short run and the long run. This can help you communicate your decision clearly and confidently and avoid confusion or misunderstanding. Using I statements to express your own feelings, needs, and preferences rather than you statements that may sound accusatory or blaming. For example, I feel overwhelmed with my current workload. Instead of saying, you are giving me too much work. There is a fine difference and must be done in order to help you assert yourself and say no. Showing appreciation and empathy for the other person's request or invitation and acknowledging their point of view is a critical behavior. This can help you maintain a positive rapport and demonstrate respect and consideration. And appropriate at that point in time. This can help you show your willingness to cooperate and find a mutually beneficial solution. Being firm and consistent with your no without feeling guilty or apologizing excessively is a smart behavior to develop. Sometimes we tend to avoid or delay our response or giving vague or ambiguous answers. It's not a helpful behavior. This can lead to uncertainty, anxiety, or resentment for both parties. Being rude or harsh with your refusal or using personal attacks, insults, or judgments is not wise. It can also lead to anger, hostility, or damage to the relationship. None of these behaviors eventually help in building long-term relationship. Saying yes when you really mean no, or agreeing to something that you don't want to do or can't do, is not a smart way to start. This can lead to stress, resentment, or poor performance. Feeling obligated or pressured to say yes, or saying yes out of guilt, fear, or pity is not wise. This can indeed lead to loss of self respect, autonomy, or lack of satisfaction. There is also an unfortunate byproduct of our inability to say no. Saying no to everything or being too rigid or inflexible with your boundaries can be equally a negative behavior. This can, of course, lead to isolation, missed opportunity, or stagnation. Very simplistically put, don't take the yes to an extreme or no to another extreme. Monitor what you want to say yes and when you want to say no. Saying no when we should is not an act of rejection. It's an act of self respect and clarity. It protects our time, energy, and priorities from being diluted by obligations that do not align with our values or goals. When we say no with conviction and grace, we create space for what truly matters, enabling deeper focus and higher quality contributions. It also sets healthy boundaries, teaching others how to respect our limits while reinforcing our own sense of control. Consistently avoiding no can lead to burnout, resentment, and a loss of direction, whereas using it wisely strengthens confidence and decision making. In leadership, and as well in life, the courage to say no is often what preserves integrity and drives meaningful success. Ultimately, every thoughtful no is a powerful yes to purpose, balance, and long term fulfillment.